Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Black Tower Show. I am your host, Nathan Ford. Jake Fox is here. BC Studios, upstate New York, 1310 AM WRSB, also on 1590 AM WRSB. Canandaigua, Rochester, Brockport, New York. Go to TuneIn Radio, tunein.com. Black Tower Show on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, all of those things. We're so out there. We're everywhere. We're everywhere you want to be. And what an honor to have George Ure on the show, man. Big fans. Go to urbansurvival.com. The site is great. George Ure writing on urbansurvival.com, talking about where we're headed. Where we're going economically. I know personally, I'm broke. That's where I'm going. But there's way you can make precautions. You can change your life. And George Ure's an expert on this. George Ure.
Well, I wouldn't call myself an expert. But before we get started, Nathan, can I do one old Jack Benny line? I've been dying to say. You know what it is, right?
No, wait, go for it. Is
that you, Rochester?
Is that you? There you go. Yeah.
Jack Benny line.
Jack Benny, is that you, Rochester? Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was.
I love that. That was great. That was a great start.
Now the problem is following up. But you did ask where we're going, and
yes, tell us, where are we going?
Well, that's where we get into a contentious area. And here's why. I have a subscriber website besides Urban Survival that's called peoplenomics.com. And over on that website, I've been working on research all week about this whole thing where you end up in life getting about as rich as you can handicap the future. Does that make sense? Let's talk about horse racing, because everybody understands ponies, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so back in 2001, I found myself unexpectedly unemployed and getting a six-figure paycheck. It was a weird deal, but basically I had told a venture company things they did not want to hear about their investment, but I was no fool. I try to live by the old saying, tell the truth and leave shortly thereafter. Well, I had a contract, and I was dealing with honorable people, so they said, yeah, we don't like what you have to say, so take all this money and leave. And I said, am I gone yet? and so I had a lot of time to think. And while I was sitting on my sailboat with my delightful wife, Elaine, down in San Diego for about 6 months, I had the internet, I had a yacht club, I had drinks and hors d'oeuvres at 4 o'clock every afternoon, walking along the breakwater just thinking about money. And one of the things that occurred to me was that when I did a regression study based on Federal Reserve data, what I discovered was that the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar has been watered down about 3.24, 3.25% per year over the past 100 years of the Federal Reserve being around. It actually will be 100 years, December, January coming up. But anyway, so the long and short of that is, and that included the Depression, by the way, which was deflationary, where purchasing power actually went up. And so I looked at that and I said, well, damn, if they're going to print up money and keep watering down purchasing power, the main thing anybody can do who wants to get ahead is to buy something now and wait for the number of dollars to buy it in the future to go up. And that's really driven just a tremendous number of things in my personal life that I've done. I got rid of my sailboat, bought a piece of property up in the middle of nowhere in East Texas when land prices out here were ridiculously cheap. Mm-hmm. And now that Texas has become kind of a flagship for job creation in the country, thanks in part to Governor Rick Perry, who's off raising money trying to run for president, and I don't agree with his dictates in terms of women's rights and so forth. But that's a whole other discussion. But just realizing that if I wanted to have 10 cents in the future, I better buy something worth 8 cents today, buy it on time, pay as little as I can, and use the magic of leverage. Well, it worked. So we went out in 2001 and bought a gold coin, and we paid $273 for it. And the price of that gold coin here in the last year or two has been as high as $1,900, and it's come back. It's come back down, but I'm not getting rid of it yet because I'd have to go out at some point in the future and buy that coin again. And when I do, it isn't going to be as cheap as what I would get if I sold it for right now. And I'm planning to live to be an old guy. I'm 64. And I figure I'll live to be 90, 95 seems to be the magic number in the family. So I got a long time to roll. So I can kind of sit back and just look at my gold coin, and there's only one, and it's got 2 pistols on either side of it. So coming to visit is a very bad idea. But nevertheless, that one gold coin has been a remarkably good investment. And see, that's what it takes. If people want to get rich, they've got to have a different vision of the future than somebody else, and your vision of the future has to be better.
Sure.
And that's really, I mean, when was the last time, Nathan, you sat down and said, well, damn, what's next week going to be like? And actually tried to place a short-term bet. I mean, next year, cars going to be more expensive or less expensive?
Well, more expensive.
Okay, there you go. Is it going to get worse mileage or better mileage?
Better mileage. Well, okay, so...
And then really, see, once you got those two things, you can start making really intelligent decisions.
Sure.
You can say, okay, if I wait till next year, the car is going to be more expensive, but it's also going to eat a lot less, maybe a tiny bit less gasoline, and so what's my incentive to wait?
Sure. And people do find themselves in kind of sticky situations where, the kind of the paycheck to paycheck kind of living, the day-to-day sort of things, which people aren't allowed to even begin to think about that. But also, when do you say people, we could check out gold, or you might want to invest in, say, food and water, and when do we get close enough, and will it get that bad, those sort of questions.
And you're exactly right. I'm working on a new book, which is really a compilation of some of the stuff we went through when we moved out here. Realize for us, it's 20 minutes of driving at 60 miles an hour to get to a gas station. We're so far out, we can't even get cell phone coverage, and yet we're surrounded by 80-foot high pine trees. It's really bizarre. But there are places like that. And what I tell anybody who will listen is there are some wonderful books that have been done by a friend of mine, retired professor emeritus up at the University of Washington, Dr. Jack Lessinger's got a book called Schizomania, and he's got another one called Penturbia. And what he does is he looks at these small to medium-sized towns which aren't going to get killed by the hangover from the living large in the 70s.
Sure.
And Detroit just filed for bankruptcy last week, and now whether they can do it or not, that's all in the courts. But you look at some of these little out in the sticks places, there's all kinds of actually decent jobs. You don't have to make a fortune to live out here because it's so cheap. Mm-hmm. Like the local UPS operation is looking for package sorters. Part-time job, probably bring home $150 a week, working a few hours a day.
Sure.
Okay? But if your rent out here in the Dingleberries is $400 a month, and you can grow your own food, and it's not a lot of hassle, and if you want more money, maybe you work at the Tractor Supply store, or maybe you deliver pizzas or drive a school bus. The really cream jobs out here are, believe it or not, post office jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys make bank.
Right.
And so, and the post office isn't really broke, by the way. That's another, one of those huge misconceptions.
But it is. It's about changing the way that you want to live. We have these kind of ideas of what success is, what the good life is, and we want it. So, Americans have this. We want to achieve that American lifestyle. I want the picket fence, and I don't want to be out in the sticks. I don't want to grow my. And so there's this kind of attitude where we're almost kind of like becoming separate from our own humanity, kind of in a way. And I like what you're saying. Go back to sustainable living. Think about it that way. Of course, you might lose. What if your girlfriend has really great taste, so she likes really fine wine? Well, then, she's not going to drink my homemade wine. Come on.
Well, you know what? Your homemade wine is going to be better than anything you've ever had. We've had homemade wine from our neighbors around here. We get these wild grapes out here, muscadet or whatever grapes grow wild in this part of Texas. Are you kidding? There is nothing better than that. And so, in fact, just up the road from us, 3 miles away, is a place that makes little boutique fruit wines called Sweet Dreams Winery. And I mean, their stuff is world class. They're winning awards for these little boutique-y wines, and they're just marvelous. And so, really, you look at the city, and once you find a mate, there's no question. I'm from a marketing background. Okay, my son is single, and Dad has told him, never move out of the big city until you find the right mate, because finding a mate, male or female, it's always the law of big numbers. You got to. It's like hiring a president, right? You got to do a lot of interviewing to find the right one, and the place to do that is where the concentration of people is large. Rochester is good, and so you have a lot of opportunity to mix, mingle, meet, and marry.
I like this relationship advice as well. This is great.
Sure, but listen, the most expensive economic mistake most people make is divorce.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, I can tell you firsthand. I gave away $500,000 of net worth. And so let's get it real. You got to look at finance as I happen to study finance real heavily, but I've got kids that are just barely 30, and so they're going, well, where should we buy a house, Dad? And I'm going, well, do you want to live happily ever after, or do you want to buy a new iPhone every 9 months? And they go, oh, you're crazy. And I readily admit that. I am. I'm nuts. But is buying a new iPhone every 9 months, is that what there is to life? Now, I go out in my backyard and I see snakes. I've got deer wandering through the yard. I've got rabbits trying to tear up my tomato plants. The cats are eating lizards and small snakes, and the raccoons are trying to get in the cat food. I mean, I'm not painting an ideal place. We've got poisonous spiders and snakes that will kill you, and you kind of get used to running around with a Glock on your hip, not because of the gangsta factor, but because out here we really do have wild animals that will eat you. But that's the fun of it. The fun of it in life is having a series of wild adventures, and most people focus on acquiring money just for the sake of I don't want to say testosterone, but it is. I mean, if you had all the money in the world, Jake, what would you do if I handed you $10,000 today?
What would you do, Jake?
I'm not going to. So
I'd probably just save it, to be honest.
Okay, now see, that's a reasonable thing. But what are you saving for? Let's dig into it. See how your head works.
Sure. I mean, I would probably say a future home, maybe.
Okay.
The home is always that's up on the list. The home,
Yeah, but okay. So is the home going to be cheaper than it is right now?
Yeah, housing prices aren't doing very well right now. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the flip side of that is look at the mortgage rates, because when the housing prices turn, the rates are going to go up. And so, at some point you kind of walk into the big casino of life. You step up to the $2 window and say, I want me one of them.
Right. Well, we have this expectation that, it's time to buy a house. Of course, I'm in my early 30s, so, of course, that is a real astonishing pressure that I'm actually going through personally right now. Home buying and these sort of things moving forward, and what the right decision is. But it always comes down to, and I liked when you were asking Jake about people having an understanding of where they personally see themselves, which is something that we actually shockingly never. We don't typically think about a lot, about how we envision where we want to be and what that looks like, what that entails, and those sort of things. Because very anxious times, it seems.
Yeah, they are. But you see, people are. I lived on a sailboat for 10 years, and I've sailed everything from north end of Vancouver Island down to basically the Mexican border. And every time I left port, I knew where I was going. I knew the weather on the way. I knew how fast the boat would go, how the winds were blowing, how much diesel I would use, how many cups of chicken soup and fried ham and cheese sandwiches I'd need from the galley. My wife knew how many cups of coffee I would drink. She knew how many cups of cocoa I would want. I knew what kind of music we would have on. The whole deal was done before I undid the rope. And see, that's one of the failings of our educational system, because you guys my generation is guilty as hell. We did not teach you how to dream, and I apologize to you 100%.
I accept your apology.
Well, yeah, but really,
we can't blame it on you. We're not going to blame it on you.
Well, I've been out there writing about this stuff, every day for 4 times or 5 times a week since 2000. And that's why, urban survival has a big following and so forth, because it's all about dreams and accomplishing your dreams. See, everybody's going to die, and what you get to leave with is probably memories and consciousness. You ain't going to be able to take the Porsche with you. You can't take the boat. I can't take my airplane. Can't do any of that stuff. But what I can take is I can take some amazing memories. And so my whole deal in life is I'm a memory harvester. I'm out there. When I'm up, working on hydroponic tomatoes. Am I doing it because I love hydroponic tomatoes? Yeah, but I also love the memory that comes with it, because I came from a generation that learned to dream. And we, what? I'll tell you how it happened, because it's kind of an interesting progression. Old guys like me, 60s now, but when we were in our 40s, we were all workaholic type A types, because we were trying to keep up with the Joneses, because I was one of those guys, got sucked into the 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, shake roof, 2-fireplace, third of an acre on a greenbelt view of the mountains. Okay. As a result, I had to work my patootie off, and so I was working 65 hours a week, and the ex-wife also went to work because she wanted to contribute, and as a result, the kids got parked in front of the doof tube, and someplace along the way, we didn't get to transfer enough of our values over to them. And that's not just me. That's like the American thing. We haven't passed on dreaming. And so along comes somebody who's a neighborhood organizer, says the right buzzwords, gets elevated to the White House. We all feel good about ourselves because we've done the right thing. We've got a Nobel Peace Prize winning president, and he's launching drones, and we can't figure out why that somehow doesn't feel right.
It's fascinating you won the Nobel Peace Prize. That's pretty. I was going to ask you, actually, because what about the responsibility that Americans have to get involved, to be informed, and to understand about A, corruption, B, how democracy works, C, civil liberties, D, and onward and onward. The generation my generation, which I happen to know because I'm around them a lot, are horribly uninformed for the most part. It seems about the level of corruption that's going on. So
yeah, but But what you going to do about it? Let's face it. There was this is another ugly thing to say, but we really have had since about. I think Jimmy Carter was the last president, and he found that who could make a major difference in the battle against corruption. I think he did what he could. I think it cost him politically, and ever since then we've been led by presidents who are not as grounded in principle as we would prefer. And in the case of Reagan, we've had an actor. We've had a lawyer from Arkansas. We've had a neighborhood organizer. Who else have we had? Oh yes, a guy who was a wildcat oil driller out in West Texas. And now that's a pretty interesting cross section of people. But in there, is there anybody who taught us to dream? Anybody who gave us a vision of the future, or, as I'm suggesting, has there really been a corporate coup in America to where the average working stiff, time or not, cannot see the facts in front of their face because media is largely corporation-owned. Corporations basically buy and sell Washington, D.C. through political action committees. Lobbyists have more. I mean, one of the most amazing guys when he got real was Jack Abramoff. Jack Abramoff tells it like it is in Washington. He was one of the highest paid lobbyists out there, and yet when push came to shove, Abramoff had the gonies to talk, straight about what America really is, and it isn't pretty. It's about partisan politics. It's about shaking money loose from the corporate tree, and as a result, what we get is not the best possible government. We get government that is bending over, backwards to spend money on the surveillance state rather than having a new vision, which might include, fiber to everybody's home, homes for everybody, food for everybody, stuff like that. But instead, we haven't looked at taking that path because the political institutions are so scared of Occupy. They're so scared of the future that they're becoming defensive, and in becoming defensive, they get paranoid. They put the Federal Data Hub together, and now you're reading about how people who, not necessarily having been through thorough security checks, will be counseling us on how we need to buy insurance from the government. Well, I get to skate because in December I get to get Medicare. I'm out. Y'all have fun with Obamacare.
All right, jeez Louise.
Isn't the Texas job boom that's happened during this depression, whatever you want to call it, due to the corporate coup culture that's pervasive in America now? This union busting, low wage job creating. If we follow this path, and if you look in 100 years at Texas, there could be suicide nets on the sides of factories like there is in China. What do you think about that?
Well, it's really a long chain business molecule, and like it or not, the internet is directly responsible for the decline of America. And here's why. When the internet did not exist, and I'm talking back in the mid-'80s, companies were trying to find better, more effective ways to manage. They were still investing in America. America still had, for crying out loud, we used to have, in this great country, we had people who could build stuff. We had industrial arts classes. I got out of high school with a pre-engineering major, but my background included how to set up, a metal shop, how to run a lathe, how to do aluminum casting, how to run a table saw, run a jointer, all of that stuff. Well, what happened was, as the cost of communications came down, and that's your internet, it became cost effective for American companies to find least cost labor producers, parentheses, that's the third world, exclamation point. And so what happened was, as communications costs came down, it became the silent disruptive technology, and it is still there today. We would not be importing stuff from China at the rate we do if we hadn't disassembled so much American manufacturing, because it can get done so cheap over there. We wouldn't get it from over there, except that communications is damn near free nowadays. And when it comes to jumping on an airplane, you can get to China, I bet, for $600. So it's easy to manage. You got Skype, okay? That gives you a live video conference with your factory in, Guangzhou province tomorrow morning at 8. So yeah, it's a great thing for the Chinese because, they now own more of us than we do because they've been buying up our debt because we're outspending our income. And it's a great thing, I suppose, in Jakarta and other places, but it's not such a great thing when you step back and look at the whole planet, because what happens is, as you develop the third world, the place that scares the hell out of me and a lot of my very thoughtful friends who are in government positions in policy, they look at things like Yemen, which has like an incredible, they make the Catholics look like they're abstaining. And so you end up with Yemen, where the birth rate is like, 17 times what it is in an established industrial country like either Russia or Germany, for example. And so we've lost due to communications. We're continuing to lose due to communications. And oh, by the way, we're losing the sex race. And oh, by the way, all those people being born in the third world want food. Now, where are they going to get food? The answer is wherever they can, which means they'll work cheaper than we will.
Sure.
And so what was once described in America as the virtuous cycle in economics. Spending on housing begets spending on furniture, begets spending on getting the baby room ready, and along comes a that whole baby boom, echo baby boom cycle. That was great.
Yeah.
It's dying because and don't get me wrong, I'm all cool with gay rights and so forth, but it's contributing to taking down the birth rate.
Yes.
And as a result, in fact, I pointed this out, must have been a year ago, for Peoplenomics subscribers, when I ran out the numbers, and I said, I ain't particularly keen on not having a border with Mexico, but from a policy standpoint, we need cheap labor to make contributions to Social Security and to increase demand and bring inventiveness back, because we've lost it.
Well, our military has even fallen victim to this corporate coup mentality.
Oh, sure.
Logistically, we don't even do our own logistics anymore, and that used to be the strength of our military.
Not only the strength of the military, Jake, but that was Jake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that it's done is it has gotten rid of the military as a place where a young man or woman could go in, learn a skill. Now, my wife Elaine was actually in the military. She's an accomplished. I forget what her rate was. She did a 3-year hitch, but she went to administrative school, learned to type, learned secretarial, learned shorthand, worked in some JAG office for a while, and learned how to field strip an M16. Useful stuff nowadays out here.
Nice.
So yeah. But what happens when you go to that civilian contractor, instead of paying a cook $1,200 a month as an whatever, you end up paying the cook $120,000 a year plus bloated corporate overhead, because they have to price into their labor charges to the government the cost of administering the contract, when the U.S. Army always has had a fine capacity to move and feed itself. Yeah. It really makes me cranky as a taxpayer that corporations have basically taken over the military, and God help us if we ever got in a shooting war someplace.
George, you're on the Black Tower Show. It's interesting, while you're speaking, I was thinking about as our world changes, the world of work changes. Like obviously the examples of sending work overseas. As the world of work changes, I think it's important to note that how we are educated, how we go through the school system, how we go to college, and what we're learning, that changes as well. That they're hitched to each other. And one of the fears that I have is that I have bore witness to the education changing to the point where, you're going to school to learn how to work in a specific business or at a specific business, and doing this very kind of computer-based, sitting in front of the screen, typing, these sort of things. I mean, don't you see a trend, even in education, that we're moving towards just chew them up, spit them out into this business? This is what you're going to be learning. You can go to school now in your pajamas, sitting in front of that. Even school and the whole thing is in front of a computer, and the whole nature of the whole environment in education is changing. It's
well, okay, you've really hit a hot button with me there, because I have been a college administrator. I've been vice president of admissions. I have been director of several schools. I got out of the school industry because it occurred to me, and I won't tell you what industry I was in, but I finally one morning while shaving, and I was making six figures. I mean, it's really hard to get away from that kind of money. I looked at myself in the mirror one morning and said, what the hell are you doing? You're loading all these kids up with huge amounts of public-backed debt, and they're going to have to pay it off, when a kid could go out and get $500 worth of tools, learn the trade themselves watching YouTube video, and here I am trying to enroll them in a school program for $18,000.
Right.
And they're going to be tied up for 18 months, and at the end of that, they walk out with $17,000 in debt.
Where were you 7 years ago, George? I could have used it.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, actually, 7 years ago, I had checked out of that field because it became, it's, again, one of those, you get introspective in your life, Nathan. And you have to sit back and say, wait a minute here. The corporate takeover of education. The only difference, and this is really a key, the only difference between an accredited school and an unaccredited school, when you strip away all the highfalutin stuff, is that usually the main area of distinction is that the accredited school has access to federal student loan funds. Main difference. The curriculum, I can tell you of dozens of very good not accredited schools where if you just want the knowledge, you can pick it up for 5 cents on the dollar. If you're looking to impress someone, then the accrediting councils of accredited schools are going around, and they're like here in Texas. If you want to work in some parts of the healthcare industry, it used to be you had to have a 4-year degree. Now it has to be a 4-year degree from an accredited regional school. Now, I would think that a 4-year degree from an unaccredited school, a great track record, a history of fine job performance, awards, and innovation would be sufficient. But they're institutionalizing the game in order to require that you get student loans so that you become I don't want to say, well, did you feel like you were jerked around and lied to and stuck with a big student loan bill?
You don't understand. It's something that I carry with me every day. And
I know.
I feel a little shysted for sure. I think, because you get pushed into one of these universities, and you feel it's kind of like you're just in the mill. You're getting milled up, and it is, I feel scammed, and but you got to keep moving, but it's always there.
Yeah, and believe me, one of the reasons that I refused to sign on my kids' FAFSAs, which is the free application for federal student aid. And my kids, oh, gosh, you should have heard the things I was called. Ooh, oh, the ex-wife was right. I really am a bad person because I won't sign on to pay for my kids' education. And I told the kids, I said, no, when it comes time and you want the education, you'll find a way to get it. It's easy to get. And sure enough, all three of my kids have gone to school. They've gotten good educations. They have mostly gotten through their student loan issues. But even now, it's like a bad hangover from a party.
Sure. Yeah, it stays right there with you.
Yeah.
George,
and it leans on you when you want to go out and buy a house. And again, this is all part of the corporate game. We have built these long chain business models. That's what they call them in grad school. They call them long chain business models. And basically, your head is put in the noose when your parents get you a Social Security number. You go through high school as a Social Security number. You come out of high school, get plugged into college, where your Social Security number is expected to take on average, X number of dollars of student loan debt. Unless you really get lucky, you're not going to be able to service that. And so when it comes time to buy a house, you've missed 16 student loan payments. You didn't get your deferment request put in on time, and you didn't take advantage of a hardship plea. So now you've got a bad credit rating. Oh, your car just got more expensive, and no, you can't own a house. So you see how they've got all this leverage, and frankly, it stinks. It ain't right. And neither one of the political parties, which are pickpocketing corporations to shut up about this stuff, neither one of the political parties has the chutzpah to come out and say, it's wrong.
Just raise the interest rates and it'll be fine. Just double them and it'll be fine.
Yeah. And they will. They will.
Sure. George, you're our guest on the Black Tower Show. urbansurvival.com. Go to urbansurvival.com. And so when the work that you do at Urban Survival has to do with preparation, it has to do with where our economy, the things that we've been talking about, where our economy is headed. Now, I want to know, my question for you is, how is it that you gather this information? What does your research look like when you're finding out about trends and these sort of things?
First of all, anybody who wants to see the future can go to Google and have a Google, I assume you have a Google account, right? Mm-hmm. Gmail or whatever. Right. Okay, so it's real easy. I believe in having what I call George's 7 major systems of life, and that's food, shelter, communications, transportation, energy, finance, and environment. And what you do is you find keyword phrases like refi rates, and you set up a Google search for that. And every time Google News comes out with one of those, you can have a news.google.com alert sent to your email. So, I get probably 300 Google email alerts per day. Some of my other categories include things like the price of gold. Let me read some of these others here. Let's see. I've got drought, deforestation, economic predictions, food supplies, the whole nature of forecasting the future, weather forecasting, gold, housing, use of the word meltdown, police state. I mean, and so you can kind of build your own, just using Google News alerts, you can build this machine that will feed your brain the key stuff you need to get ahead. But do you know how many people? Well, I'll use you, Jake. You're a nice fellow. We'll fix that. We'll teach you. Do you have any news alerts set up? Like, you want to buy a house? I gave you $10,000 of monopoly money earlier in the show. You put it in a bank. You're going to do just fine with that. But have you got housing notes coming off Google News whenever housing rates change, or when new refi programs come out, or the Weekly Mortgage Banker Association, housing statistics for the week?
Those things,
yeah, but see how easy it is. But nobody's out teaching people how to get the power, how to claim it. I mean, that's fine for me because, you know, I get to write about prepping. I get to write about the economic hosing of America. I get to, you know, write about the lack of visionary leadership. And believe me, there's more stuff I can write about than I can shake a stick at. But all it takes is, instead of tweeting idiocy back and forth, all people have to do is say, wait a minute, I'm going to have 1 free hour of computer-free time, and on a piece of paper, I'm going to write down the core stuff I want to change in my life. And that is these 5 things, and I want to do it in the next year. And then you go into Google or any other, you know, good search engine. You can do searches with Bing. Maybe you set aside an hour a week. I like the Google News alerts though, because they're rolling at you. You can't ignore those things. You know, they populate your inbox, and so it keeps you conscious, keeps you focused on your goals, so you can get ahead. Yeah, you can still Skype. Yeah, you can still tweet. Yeah, you can still Facebook. But at least you're getting some input that keeps you focused. You know, like 1 year from now, I the Jake, am going to own a house. And so you'll know what real estate prices are like, what neighborhoods are doing, what finance rates are. You know, another thing, speaking of homes, a big, dark, dirty secret that nobody talks about, there's a lot of homes that go into what are called tax liens. People, you know, a lot of people don't manage their money well, or they really do run into streaks of bad luck. And we're in a target-rich environment where corporations are making just loads of money by bankrupting people. But the other side of it is you can often look up tax lien sales, and you can invest in tax liens. And so instead of putting your money in the bank at 1% or less, you know, 1% anymore gets to be a decent return. But you can go out and find ways to invest in tax liens, where basically you buy the title to the property with a tax lien and pay off the taxes on it, and then for the person to buy the property back from you, you're effectively the new owner. They have to pay you whatever you've got into it at a rate of, you know, depends by state. I haven't looked up New York's, but anywhere from 10 to 25 to, even in some weird cases, even 50%. And so if you're not happy with bank rates of return, maybe that's the kind of thing you ought to do, is look up some new and creative ways to get maximum return on the couple of dimes you are able to save. That's why I never worry about being poor. Broke means not having money, but poor, you see, is a state of mind. Sure. And as a country, we're dangerously close to poor as a state of mind, and that ain't the America. That ain't the America at all. The America is sometimes broke. We may not have the ready cash, but we got the dream, we got the plan, and we got a way to get there. And that's what we got to keep an eye on.
Amen. George Ure from the Black Tower Show.
You've recently sent the internet a buzz with word of your recent product, Nostracodus. Would you want to tell our audience a little bit about that?
Yeah. Okay. Real briefly, in addition to using existing tools like OpenCalais and Google, there are lots of other ways to look at the internet. I'm a marketing guy, and so I have an occasion for clients now and then. Let's say a grocery store in Puxatawny, and they want to keep an eye on the other grocery store's website in Puxatawny. And so some friends of mine up in Canada developed a piece of software that lets you name specific websites and then go prioritize every word on the website. This allows you to look specifically at the language a competitor is using so that you can tailor your website as a counter to it. Now, in terms of does it have other applications? Yeah. Back in World War II, by simply doing newspaper clippings about what the Germans were writing about in their local newspapers using a technique called word frequency analysis, there was some expertise developed in understanding how the future was developing by just looking at word frequency changes over time. And so it may or may not have predictive value. There are some other programs and offerings out there that look into the future using other techniques. And so we're not launching our product to the general public at this time, but imagine the power if you could specify the top 25 or top 30 financial discussion websites, and then just go out and look for stock XYZ and pull back a link to every page where that was mentioned, so that you could then do some analysis and see if the public was looking favorably or unfavorably at that particular stock.
Yeah.
So this is nothing like, the NSA's recorded futures that they.
Oh, no. All we're doing, in a nutshell, is putting in regular HTTP URLs, like www.drudgereport.com, and except instead of displaying that on a screen, it goes into Visual Fox Pro 9, where it's sliced and diced, and all the words are counted, so that you can infer some things about content from particular links. But it has, like I say, its highest value, I think, will be in marketing. Just being able to do word counts on your competitor, to see how they're positioning their product, and it just takes a lot of effort out of that.
I would like to close with asking your opinion on earth changes that are happening. I mean, we have, sinkholes, train derailments, earthquakes. I mean, do you think they're related in any way? What do you think's going on there?
Yeah, I think there's really two major dynamics, and I'll try to keep this really short. The two major dynamics at play are probably what we have done to the Earth in terms of pollution, changing of carbon dioxide levels, and of course, changes in ozone. That's factor number one. Factor number two, it looks like the current solar cycle, cycle 25, we'll get another glance at it in 2 weeks when the next data points are released by NOAA. But it looks like we're in a period, at least very short term, of dramatic global cooling because of cooling of activity from the sun, and that could result in additional Earth changes because the Earth shrinks when it gets cool, and shrinkage or expansion of the crust can set off devastating earthquakes.
George, you're our guest. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And I just have one favor. I was wondering, just for our promotional and our marketing things, can you say, this is George Ure, and you're listening to The Black Tower Show for us?
You bet. Hi, this is George Ure. You're listening to The Black Tower Show with Crazy Jake and Wild Nathan.
That's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, George Ure. You have a great day.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
All right, take care.